What's up YouTube? This is Angelo Christmas and I'm back again with another video documenting my journey to $20,000 per month with high ticket sales. So in today's video, it's a little bit of a different one. I'm actually going to be showing a full call that I did on the offer I'm on, where from start to finish how I closed a $3,000 deal selling fitness. So before we get into that, I just wanted to give an update in terms of where I'm at right now with the new offer. I've finished my first full month so far, and so far I took about 30 calls and I closed 7 deals. So my close rate is sitting at around 23%, which is pretty decent for my first week. I'm looking to get that up to at least 30% by the end of the month. So that's just an update in terms of how the sales have been going. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing a full call from start to finish of how I actually took a prospect from not actually knowing it's a sales call to at the end of the call paying $3,000 and signing up for a fitness program, and me obviously making $300 commission in the process. So I think this is going to be quite an interesting video to see the entire process from start to finish. So let's dive straight into it. I'm going to pause throughout the video wherever I feel like I want to share my thoughts and insights as to why I did what I did. But for the most part, I'm just going to let the call run until I actually feel the need to say something.
Hey Leonard, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing good. Is Leonard fine, or do you prefer Len?
Just for some more context on the offer that I'm on, this is actually a tripwire sales call, as people call them. That basically means that all the people I speak to don't actually know that this is it's a sales call. They think they're just coming on this call to get more information. They've already purchased a lower ticket product from the company I'm working at, like for $57, something cheap, right? A program just that they can do on their own. But my job is to speak to them, understand their problems and how it's affecting them, and see if they actually would be a good fit for our higher ticket packages that they can obviously benefit more from and fix their issues once and for all. So they have no idea that's what this is about. So he has no idea that I'm going to actually pitch him a high ticket program at the end of the call, just for some context around the sales process. So let's continue.
Len.
Okay, cool stuff, Len. Awesome. Just have to also let you know the call is being recorded just for training and compliance reasons. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So a bit of context on me then, Len. My name is Angelo. I'm one of the metabolic advisors here at VShred. So I work quite closely with Vince and the team. And today my role is quite simple, right? It's just to hear your fitness goals, hear what you've been struggling with, hear what you've tried in the past, and also just make sure you're going down the right path for success at VShred. Okay?
All right.
Okay. And just as a time check, I know I might have mentioned in the message already, but do you have about 45 minutes set aside just in case the call does overrun? Is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant stuff. So the other reason for the call as well then is obviously because you did the metabolic quiz. Now with the quiz, it's not blood work by any means, right? So it's not 100% accurate, but it does typically give us like a 90 to 95% accuracy in terms of what's happening with your metabolism. Okay. Now, someone in your age group would score around a 7 out of 10. Now the results for you did come in a bit low at a 4 out of 10. Okay. Now, obviously, it's not the end of the world. You're not going to die, right? It just simply means that you might have a harder time when it comes to losing weight, keeping it off, and also gaining muscle as well. So does that come as a surprise to you at all?
No.
Okay, it doesn't. Cool. We can obviously dive into that as well, but just
for some more context around the offer I'm on, that's pretty much the introduction of the call, because in order for them to get on this call, the marketing team sends them a metabolic quiz that they'll fill out on their side. And then that typically will give them results in terms of what's happening with the metabolism, which is why they come on this call to figure out what those results are. And most often than not, the results are low because these people are overweight, out of shape, and have been for multiple years. And then that's why they're coming on this call to understand what their results are and how they can actually improve their metabolism, just for some more context.
Before we do it, since I do only have ranges on my screen, Len, can I please get your age, your height, and your body weight, please?
Now we're getting into the serious business.
Yeah, I'm 56. I'm 5'9", and right now I'm 225.
Okay, got you. And what exactly are you looking to achieve specifically working with us at VShred?
Losing my big gut that I developed over the last 5 years.
Got you. So getting rid of the gut, right? I see. So where would you love to be with your weight for you to, feel your best again, lose the gut? What's the goal for you?
Probably around 200. 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with lung and brain cancer, and they put me on a high dosage of steroids, and I just ballooned. So I'd like to get rid of that. And obviously, I've lifted over the years. I've really never done cardio. I don't like cardio. But I mean, I'll try anything now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would you say like 200 is at your long term?
At this point, I'm just trying to figure out what his actual goal is, what he wants to achieve, and then get some data on how long he's actually last been there and what he's done in the past and where's the bottleneck in his life. Like, what's the problem for him? He has laughed a few times, which is not good, and I didn't call it out then, but you will see as the call continues, I did call it out when it mattered more, which set a strong frame for the rest of the call.
Goal, is that just like your initial goal?
That's my initial goal. Yeah.
Okay,
when I was in
cool.
my best shape, I was 195, and I was pure muscle at that point. And
okay. So would you say 195 is the long-term goal for you then?
yeah.
Okay, got you. Perfect. So that would be about 30 pounds we got to lose then, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
As you notice, oftentimes prospects will not tell you the real goal immediately because they often will sell themselves short because they see it as unattainable setting such a big goal. That's why I probed a bit deeper to figure out, okay, that was your initial goal. What's your long-term goal? Where you really want to get to? Because then it obviously builds a bigger gap for the prospect as well.
Got you. So when was the last time, remind me again, that you were last down at 195, Len?
I was down at 195 probably 5 or 6 years ago.
5 or 6 years ago. Okay. So it was before like the cancer as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, got you. So I guess over the past 5 or 6 years, then, Len, what specifically have you tried to lose the weight on your end?
I've been working out. I lift weights. I have a 5-day-a-week weight training program, and then the last probably 5 or 6 weeks, I got on my wife's Peloton bike, and I was doing 30 minutes every morning.
At this part of the call, prospects normally give a lot of excuses as to why they haven't actually achieved their goals. And as you can see, it's my job to, stack clarity, build evidence as to basically show them that those are just excuses and figure out what's the real problem in their life that's prevented them from achieving their goal. Not excuses and external factors, something that comes down to them and what they're doing in their life. So that's pretty much what's happening in this part of the call.
Classes, and honestly, I started gaining a little more.
I see. Okay, that's interesting. And I guess over the past like 5 or 6 years, were there anything like specific that you've tried, like any specific diets or programs, anything like that?
Yeah, I did a couple just calorie counting diets. I'd lose a couple pounds here and there, and then I'd gain it back, after I quit counting.
Okay. And so it sounds like you would see some progress, but then you sort of fall off track and the weight would come back on, would you say?
Right, yeah.
I see. And would you say that's been like a common trend for you over the past few years, Len?
Yeah, yep.
Okay, got you. So I guess it would be fair to say that you have been a bit inconsistent when it comes to weight loss and stuff, would you say?
Right.
Okay, got you. So I guess knowing that.
At this point of the call, I got him to admit that the problem is him being inconsistent based on the evidence he told me, right? He told me he would see progress and then he'd sort of stop and then the weight comes back on. So now I got him in the frame of mind that he's the problem, right? The problem is him and him not being consistent. So now that allows us to obviously get him to take ownership, which is what I'm going to do now, and get him to tell me what that way of doing things of him being inconsistent, how has that been affecting him up until this point?
Sort of been the challenge for you, Len. Do you feel like if you continue to be inconsistent moving forward, you'd ever have a good shot of getting down to 195 and staying there? Or how do you feel?
I guess I'm looking for something that worked for me. I don't know. I've never had a weight problem up until 5 years ago. Honestly, it was hard for me to gain weight when I was lifting weights. And then I don't know if it was the steroid.
So he's still making excuses at this point, right? He never actually take full ownership yet, because he's still saying he's looking for something that works for him, knowing that what he's done in the past was working. He just wasn't consistent enough to actually lose all the weight. So you'll obviously see how I go about reframing his belief around that and showing him the truth.
Or just it changed my whole body system, or I don't know what happened, but I felt like my gut just blew up, and it hasn't gone down.
I hear you. I got you. And obviously it's unfortunate that it has happened, right? But, it's sort of like the cards we dealt. We still got to work around those things if we want to lose weight, So I know you mentioned you want to find something that works for you, but, like you mentioned already, over the past few years, you haven't entirely been consistent, right? So what would you say, like, is more important than, like, having, like, the perfect plan or being 100% consistent?
I guess a little bit of both, I never had to worry. I never had to work at losing weight, so I've never had to try to lose weight, up until recently. And when I was on the diets and stuff, I really wasn't working out at that point because my body was just getting back into, getting my strength back and things like that. Now within the last 2 years, I've been lifting pretty good, and I feel a lot better, but I still can't get rid of the belly.
Yeah, that's understandable.
I mean,
because,
at my age, I'm not.
He's still making excuses, right? He said a bit of both. So he still feels that he needs the perfect plan, and the problem is not the consistency. So it still hasn't really sat with him yet. So I'm still gonna get him to accept the fact that the problem is him, not the plan.
I'm looking for a 6-pack, but I'm looking to get back, maybe get down to my 32 pant size again.
Yeah, of course. And obviously, like they say, exercise is good, it's important, right? But when it comes to like losing the weight, 80% of the results will come down to the nutrition, right? Like they say, you can't like outwork a bad diet, So right. I know you said like a bit of both is a bit of important, but like if we were to think about it, right, then, if there were two people, it can be two people, right? One can have the perfect plan, but they're not consistent. Or who would you feel would get the better results? One with a suboptimal plan, but it's 100% consistent.
He knows he's cooked. Right? He can tell. He knows that he has to admit the truth, but it's hard for him to actually face the truth. Right? He's trying to figure out what smartest thing he can say.
I don't know. I want to find something that I can stick to. Obviously, I was doing the cardio on the bike, and I don't know if I was gaining leg strength, maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's what caused my weight gain. It was only a couple pounds, but I'm like, this ain't working. And I hate, the bike isn't for me, but it's the only thing I have here. And I'm not a runner. And, I was walking and things like that, which probably was keeping me a little consistent, but it's cold right now here in Pennsylvania. It's hard to get out and walk every morning.
So he's still just making excuses, and he's not actually answering my questions, right?
It's raining and cold, and
Yeah, that's understandable. Like we've even helped people like in wheelchairs still lose weight, so you don't have to stress too much about like the exercise. But what I want to really understand from you, like which person do you think would be more successful? Like the one that's 20%.
So again, just brushing off his excuses and bullshit. Letting him know that exercise doesn't really matter. We've helped people in wheelchairs lose weight, and now asking the question again to get him to actually tell us what we need for him, what we need him to say.
Consistent with a perfect plan or 100% consistent with a suboptimal plan?
One that's 100% consistent, I guess.
For sure, because it ultimately will come down to the consistency, right? Because if we aren't consistent, we're never going to get to the end goal, right? So
one thing I should have done there is challenged him on he said he guesses. So that's not certainty. I should have been like, what makes you say you guess? Or you guess, or that is the case. Get him to actually admit that it is consistency. Small thing, but he kind of still took ownership at that point.
Since you have been like inconsistent in the past for you, Len, like what do you feel like that inconsistency has costed you over the past few years of you not being where you want to be with your health and fitness?
Well, I guess if I would have, you know, stuck to the dieting and, you know, it probably would have helped in the long run. I just couldn't get past that point where it was, I could see it working.
Mm. Yeah, obviously, no, that's where the issue sort of went off track. But I mean, in terms of you not being where you want to be, like with your health and fitness, you know, you being like 30 pounds, like, you know, overweight, like what does that sort of like had an impact on you over the past few years? You not being where you want to be.
Um, well, I'm not going to go out and take my shirt off if it's, you know, 80 degrees out right now because my gut's hanging out. But yeah, I just want to feel a little better. I want to be able to bend over and, you know, without being out of breath.
I see. Okay, so it's obviously making it a bit harder for you to bend over and you're getting out of breath more often than you used to.
Right.
Okay. I hear you. And that's obviously been over the past few years, right? So, you know, if things don't change for you, Len, and you know, what do you feel like that would continue to cost you moving forward, like over the next 10 years, for example?
What would it do to me?
Yeah, like what do you feel it would continue to cost you if
Well,
things don't change?
probably get bigger. I don't know. I never really had to, like I said before, I never really had to diet until now. Like it's just been over the past 5 years. You know, I don't know how to diet, I guess. I'm sure I don't eat the right foods. I'm a red meat, potatoes kind of person. And, you know, counting the calories was a challenge. I did it and you know, it helped in the past, but now recently it's, you know, I tried dieting the last, 5 or 6 weeks as well. And, you know, it's just eating the right foods and things. And it's just a very slow process. And that's why I checked into this.
I hear you. And it's obviously going to be, you know, it's going to be a challenge at the end of the day, right? But I guess when it comes to, you know, you, Len, would you say, since it has been, you know, 5, 6 years now, would you say you're already and committed to being consistent so you can actually get back down to 195? Or how do you feel?
Oh, I could get back down to 195. I just got to figure out how to do it in the best way. And I don't know that way.
I hear you. But like we both agreed, though, you know, it's not necessarily about finding the best ways, right? It's about you know, putting in that discipline and being consistent with that approach, whatever you do, however you do decide to do it, right? So would you say you are committed to being consistent now so you can get back there?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
So at first he didn't really answer like a good answer. He just said, yeah, I just got to find the perfect aim. So I'm like, okay, like we did agree though. It's not about the perfect plan. It's about you actually being consistent. So knowing what it's costed you, are you ready to actually be consistent now so you can actually get to your goal? Yes or no? Then he gave me a direct answer and said yes. So now that we got the commitment to change his behavior of consistency that's holding him back, now we're going to move on to the next part of the call, which is deep pain and how this extra weight is actually affecting him in his current situation right now.
Well, that's good to hear then, Len. So I guess since it has been, you know, 6 years now, you have sort of been dealing with this challenge and that inconsistency. What makes it really important for you now that you really want to commit to achieving this goal and, you know, getting back down to 195?
Well, I want to be healthier. You know, I just retired in December. My wife's going to retire in probably another year. We want to start traveling while we're young and we can, you know, get out and do things and hike and, you know, do different things before we're too old. So, yeah, I want to get in the best shape I can, and I don't want to look like a fat slob. You know, that's, yeah.
I hear you. And I noticed you obviously chuckled a bit there, Lynn, but like if you were to think about it, do you feel like the fact that you feel like you look like a fat slob, do you feel like that is funny?
No, it's not funny. No. You know, I don't like it. I know other people joke about it. Yeah, dad bod, whatever. I said, that's sexy. Yeah, it's not sexy to me.
So at this part of the call, I actually called out the laugh because I was like, okay, I didn't call out previously, but now we're actually getting into the emotion about why this weight is affecting him. So him starting off the emotion by laughing is not good because he's not actually going to take it seriously. And he's not going to be as inclined to becoming vulnerable with me and sharing how the weight is affecting him. So by me calling out that laugh and showing him like, do you really feel like that's funny? He said no. Now he's a bit more serious about the call, right? That's going to help us uncover how this weight is affecting him because the frame is now I'm like more in control of the call because I addressed that, which is good, because in the past I would just let that slide. So let's continue.
I always had a thin waist, and I always worked out, and I was fairly healthy, and I didn't have to worry about dieting and things like that. I thought my metabolism must have, I don't know what changed, but it just
it's obviously different now, right?
One day. Yeah.
I hear you. So I guess you feeling like you look that way. I think, what did you say? Fat slob, was that the word you used, Len?
Yeah.
Okay. How long do you feel like you felt that way? Like you feel like you look like a fat slob?
Probably the last five. When I was on them steroids, my gut just bloated up, and I was like, Doc, you got to get me off these steroids. I can't take this. I can't even bend over to tie my shoes now. And she's like, no, you got to keep the weight on, because I was going through chemo and radiation. She wanted me to keep my weight on, and then I just kind of, I guess I was like, okay, I guess this is it, But I'm alive. I'm cancer free, so I'll just deal with it. Like, now I can't do this. I got to get back in shape.
Of course, because obviously, overcoming cancer, that's a huge accomplishment, right? But I'm sure now you want to get to that next level and get to your best when it comes to your health as well, in terms of your fitness too. So aside from you feeling like a fat slob, then like, where else do you feel like in your life this extra weight is bothering you the most or hindering you the most, would you say?
Well, I'm a retired police officer. I can't wear my gun in my waistband in front anymore, which is the most tactical place to have it, because my gut's in the way and it digs into my stomach. So, for me, I need to get back to that, so where I can, I can physically carry again, and be more.
Do you still carry now, or you stop carrying because of that?
No, I still carry, but I carry in different places, and it's not as tactically sound, and I don't like to do that.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, the firearms, it can be used in like a life or death situation, and being in the most optimal position can make a difference from someome's life. So
I've trained that way. Yeah, I've trained that way for 30 some years, and now I got to switch it up because my gut gets in the way.
I hear you. And I guess one thing you also mentioned, you do get out of breath a lot. So where are you most noticing that you're sort of out of breath and you don't have the energy you would like to have?
Oh, no, it's like when I'm bending over to tie shoes, your gut's hanging, your gut's in the way, and it's like, oh, my goodness, I can't even bend over to tie my shoes. Takes your.
Got you. So more so doing those sort of things. I see. And I guess, you learn like not being able to, carry where you want to, and you're feeling like a fat slob like for these past few years. How else do you feel like that sort of, showing up in other areas of your life, this extra weight?
Oh, well, the way my wife looks at me, or I don't know, maybe she thinks I'm a fat slob. She tells me I'm not, but
I see. So do you feel like possibly, even though she's not saying that, she could possibly be should have addressed the laughter again, thinking about that in her head?
Yeah, I mean, we're both police officers, and we were both in shape all our lives, and now we both obviously gained weight over the years, but she's a marathon runner, and I was I was into weightlifting and things like that, bodybuilding, and I was always, my goal was to lift this much, or my goal was to get this way, and that kind of went away after my cancer diagnosis. I kind of lost track of all that, and then I'm finally back into it, and now I need I want to find the best program or whatever to help me get through to get back to where I want to be.
Yeah, I understand. And I guess obviously, your wife, I'm sure she loves you either way, and she hasn't directly said anything about it, right? But the fact that you thinking that in your head, Len, if that is true, how do you feel like that makes you feel as her husband, knowing that you've let it get to this point?
Well, like Oh, I don't know. I mean, I know she doesn't feel that way, but it's the way I'm like, does she look at me the same way, or I don't even want to take my shirt off around her, So yeah, it's kind of my thing.
I see. More so about like how you feel and how you think about it. Got you.
Listen, she stuck with
And
me for a lot of shit over the years, so I know she's probably not going to go anywhere.
that's good. I mean, it's good to hear that she's a keeper, right? So that's nice. But I guess the fact that you're not even comfortable to take your shirt off around her, like Len, like when did that sort of start? Like you sort of feeling that way?
Oh, when I got ballooned up, when I had the cancer, and I didn't think about it. I mean, I thought about it then, but I was too concerned with staying alive at that point. And then when I was cancer free, I was like, no, I gotta do something. And I've tried several calorie countings over the last 5 years, and it just I think the first time it worked, second time it worked a little bit. Then I kind of I wasn't. I guess I wasn't as committed as I should have been, and
Yeah, I hear you, and I appreciate that.
He's starting to finally take ownership. You see, he was about to say that it doesn't work anymore, but then he's like, okay, I guess it was actually me that was a problem.
Honesty, that shows that that's the first step in making that change. We have awareness of the issue, right? And I guess for you then, Len, like what has it been like for you, as a man, as a husband, knowing that because of this extra weight, it's got you to the point where you feel like you're a fat slob, you have these thoughts that your wife doesn't look at you the same, you're uncomfortable enough to take your shirt off around her, and you also can't carry where you feel like it most be optimal for you. Like what's that been like for you over these past few years?
Well, it's just been a huge obstacle, I guess. I like when we go out to dinner, I'm carrying and I'm sitting and my gut's digging into my pistol, and I'm like, what if I have to pull this thing out quick? I gotta, lift up my belly, and it's an obstacle to me. It's something that I'm finally tired of dealing with, and I need to get on track and get moving and get work.
Exactly, because when the time comes where you do need to pull it out, you're not going to have all the time in the world, right? You're going to only need less than a second in most situations, right? So
Right. Yeah.
I hear you.
I don't want to have to do it, but if I have to do it, I want to be able to do it.
Exactly. I agree, man. So I guess how much longer do you feel you want to continue to let that inconsistency cost you all those things in your life, Len, and
I'm
live
done.
that way?
I'm
You're
done.
done.
It's time to do it.
Good. I'm happy.
So that's pretty much the end of the pain and how the weight is affecting him in his life. Could have done a better job digging deeper, especially when it comes to how the firearm was affecting him, because as an ex-police officer, that probably does play a toll on him, thinking that because he's so fat, he can't even carry where he feels it's most optimal for him. So I could have asked some deeper questions around that, like, I mean, how would it make you feel if there came a time where you did need to pull it out because your belly was in the way, you weren't able to pull it out as quick as you needed to, actually get him to feel that. But at this part of the call now, we're going into the next phase of the call, which is all about talking to him about what his life is going to look like when he actually achieves the goal, right? We spoke about the pain and how it's affecting him. Now we're talking about how good his life is going to be when he actually gets the weight off.
It's here that. So with that in mind, then like when I actually put you in a position where in 6 months time from now, you can know that you have achieved your goal of 195, and more importantly, you can stay there long term. What do you feel like that's truly going to do for you personally once you do actually get there?
Oh, it'll make me feel great. I mean, I feel a lot better now that I'm back up to my optimal, weightlifting, and it's just this one obstacle I can't get over. I can't. Well, not that I can't. I can. I just haven't been able to. I haven't put it in to do it, I guess.
I see. And
that's the power of like getting him to see that he is a problem, because now he's not really making excuses anymore, right? He said he hasn't been able to do it, then he's like, okay, it's not that I haven't been able to, I haven't actually put the work in to do it.
I guess since you haven't been sort of at that level in for the past like 5 or 6 years, when you do actually get there, what are you most looking forward to in your life? Like, what do you feel would change like the most for you?
Well, I'd probably feel a heck of a lot better, and I'd be obviously more healthy. I'd probably get off the blood pressure medication. Um,
Oh
Although
yeah,
it has gone down since I retired, but
gotcha. For
yeah,
sure, man. Yeah, that's kind of like the silent killer in the US these days. So I
right.
hear you. And I guess you having achieved all of this, not just for you, but also, for your wife as well, like you mentioned, and where you can actually, start carrying in the front again. You no longer feel like a fat slob. You can be the man you want to be deep down inside. How do you feel that's truly going to make you feel knowing that you've achieved that again?
Oh, it made me feel great, wonderful.
Amazing. And would you say you are ready to become that person then?
Oh yeah.
Amazing. And do you also believe it is possible? Because that's also important as well.
Oh, I believe it's possible. Yeah.
Awesome. Good. And because at the end of the day,
Now we wrapped up that part of the call. Now we're actually going to dig into the cost of inaction. What his life will look like in the future if he doesn't make a change.
like I know we can get you to that position, right? But the other side of the coin, if we were to be honest, is if you don't make the right sort of changes when it comes to that consistency, right? So if things were to stay the same for you, Len, like what do you feel your life would look like if another 10 years go by and things don't change?
Huh. I'd be in worse shape. I probably wouldn't be able to walk and do the things I want to do. I don't want to go down that road. I see all the people that I've worked with over the years. Once they retire, they just they become me. They get overweight. They can't breathe. They can't do things that they want to do. I want to go out. When I have grandkids, I want to be able to go out and play in the yard with them and throw ball and play football and do all that stuff. I don't want to be that person that has to sit in a chair and watch them, from the chair.
Yeah, I hear you. So I guess obviously that's not what we want, right? And just for your context, the only reason we ask this question specifically is because what I've noticed from our most successful clients, Lynn, they're successful for two big reasons, right? They know exactly what they want to achieve and why it's important to them, which is what we spoke about, but they also know what their future looks like if they don't achieve that goal, right? And that puts you in a lot of an empowered state of mind to make sure you actually do what's required to achieve it, right? So if things were to continue like they have been, then like what do you feel like that could potentially lead to for you in your life?
Oh, it could lead to all kinds of health issues. Like I said, not being able to do the things I want to do with grandkids or with my wife. We want to travel. We want to travel all over the place.
Yeah,
It's
I
hard to
hear
do
you.
that
And
if you're with using a walker or a wheelchair, or you can't walk.
exactly. And I guess if that were to be the case, right, Len, how would that sort of make you feel like as a husband, as a grandfather, looking back at life, knowing that you could have prevented all that from happening?
Oh, it'd make me feel worthless.
Hmm. I hear you, man. And at the end of the day, I know we can prevent all that from happening and help you achieve these goals, right? But whose responsibility is it to actually do the work?
Oh, it's absolutely mine.
Exactly. And we can be there with you, every step of the way, ensuring you do get to the goal, right? But would you say you are 100% committed to actually making that your reality now? Or how do you feel?
Yeah, I'm 100% committed.
Okay. You sure?
Well, as long as it don't cost me a lot of money, because I'm on a fixed income now.
I hear you. I'm not talking about like any sort of investment. I'm just saying like for your own personal commitment though, like as on your end, are you committed to actually, ensuring you achieve these goals?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, if
So looking back at it, I could have got a bit more clarity in the consequence phase of what his life will look like if you don't achieve the goal. I mean, I didn't go as deep as I could have, because I could have asked him like, his wife's perspective, how she would view him at that point if he lets it get that bad. How would it make his grandkids feel if he's not able to play with them, or how would he feel about that? Or even the firearm. I could have brought that back into the picture, because that's more so a consequence if he does need to use it, and because his fat belly is in a way he can't pull out in time, and it costs him someone's life, his loved one's life, or his life. Pretty scary consequences, but very real if someone carries a firearm. So I could have dug into all those it would have been much smoother. Either way, I did close him, so it was enough to close him. The next part is pretty much the pitch. I'm not sure if I should show it because it is a bit long. I'll just skip the pitch because that's pretty much just me explaining the program, and I'll get to the point where I actually got his commitment to move forward.
It's the only thing we have at V, the hard work, 2 to 3 workout chance. So you do need to, if there comes a time with biking it back up on something that's actually going to fix. So do you have any questions so far? In 90 days to look and feel amazing to the results you're looking for. How do you feel? Because that's what I care about the most.
Yeah.
In 90 days to look and feel, in 90 days to look and feel amazing again. Okay.
So this is the end of the pitch.
I do have one question. Is this something I can do at home in my gym or on my bike?
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Whatever you have available, like you can even send us a picture of your gym equipment, and then we'll structure everything around that. So it's all tailored to you and your own life. It's not like cookie cutter, you know. So I guess with all that in place, Len, do you actually feel like this can get you the results you're looking for? How do you feel? Because that's what I care about the most.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. That's good to hear. So obviously, you know, when it comes to the investment for doing something like this, Len, one thing I will say, you know, it's not cheap, but we do have many ways we can make it affordable for you. Okay. And the reason it's not cheap, Len, is because we're not just helping you lose weight, right? We're helping you, you know, fix your metabolism, transform your life, and give you back that happiness you deserve for the rest of your life. Okay. So I also forgot to mention, once the 6 months are done, Len, we're not just going to leave you to hang out to dry, okay? You're still going to have an additional 6 months of what we call our aftercare phase, which is where you'll still have access to all our workout programs and our meal plans, so you can still continue to utilize that even once you're done with the coach. So it's kind of like 12 months in total, but just those first 6 months would be with the coach, okay?
All right.
Cool. So yeah, we do have some packages, Len, that can run for very high. I'm talking like, you know, $17,000, you know, pretty high. But luckily for you, you're not in that boat, okay? Your one is nowhere near that. So for this one, for the everything I've mentioned, the 6 months with the coach, the additional 6 months to, you know, get you back to 195, that would just be $3,000, okay?
Ooh.
Now, what I will say, most people don't even pay that all up front, right? Some people do put on a card, get their trip, get the points for the next vacation. But some of what our most successful clients typically do, Len, they normally opt for monthly financing options. Okay, and that allows you to still spread out the payment and get the result without breaking the bank. Okay, so if you go that way, you can get the payments to as low as about 120, 150 bucks a month, depending on which option you choose. Okay, so I guess for you, Len, would you be leaning more towards all-in-one or the monthly work better for you, would you say?
Probably the all-in-one.
You just want to get it out one time, you say?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I mean, just so you're also aware, if that's what you do, and that's perfectly fine. But if you spread it out up to 6 months, there also is no interest. If you rather just break it down and make it more manageable for you, or would you just still rather do it all in one? Would you say?
Yeah, I'd rather just do it all in one. I don't have payments hanging over my head.
I hear you. I'm the same. we are like in that region. Cool. Well, if that's the case, then Len, what we can do, we can get that investment process. Your coach will be in touch with you in the next 48 hours and then get you on track to getting back down to 195 again. Does that sound good with that?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Cool. How do you feel?
Feel pretty good.
Feel pretty good. Excited, nervous?
Yeah, a little bit of both, I guess.
Yeah, but I'm excited for you. I'm also proud of you, Len, for making this decision. So I'm looking forward to seeing that progress in 6 months' time. So what I'll do for you then, Len, I've sent that link in the chat. So you can just go ahead and click on that and then let me know when you're on the next page.
I think it went away.
So
also, if you look at the bottom, you'll see that.
That's pretty much the end of the call. As you can see, I closed him. He had no objections. He did have a bit of a shock when he heard $3,000, but you know, based on the call, based on everything I've went through with him, showing him how this weight is affecting him, and him actually realizing that, you know, he saw it as a $3,000 problem. You know, that's, if I wasn't there, he wouldn't have seen it as a huge problem to spend $3,000. You know, and it's probably the first time that he's thought about it in that as deep as we went. You know, obviously I could have gone deeper. It wasn't like a perfect call. There was still a bit of mistakes and I could have done better, but I got it across the line in the end. and he ended up just paying the full $3,000. So in like 44 minutes I made $300, which was a pretty good call though. I enjoyed it, and I'm happy I was able to help him, you know, fix his problems once and for all. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. I might start doing more of these, just showing the calls that I do close, and you know, going through them, seeing where I went wrong, where I could have done better, and yeah, just showing a bit more of like actual footage of me closing deals. But yeah, thank you for watching the video. If you made it this far, let me know in the comments what you thought of the call. Let me know, you know, make sure you subscribe, drop a like, leave a comment if you haven't already. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you for tuning in. Have a good day.